Hi there, I'm Viv from Academic Skills. Welcome to our video about preparing for remote exams. In this video I'm going to talk about using Proctorio, setting up your equipment and your space and studying for the exam. Proctorio is a piece of software which will record you while you take your exam. It's enabled through a Google Chrome extension, and the advice on the Wattle page will help you to install it. At the start of your exam, Proctorio requires you to show a piece of identification. That can be either your ANU student card, your passport, or a driver's license. Proctorio does not use facial recognition software. All of the identity checking happens manually. And ANU only requires your photo and your name on the piece of identification. So if you wish to obscure those details, hold your hand over it or put a piece of paper in front of it while you do that. Proctorio requires a stable internet connection, and it uses your webcam and your microphone on your computer. Depending on the exam settings, Proctorio is also going to disable various functions on your computer. So it's going to disable things like browser tabs or windows, other monitors, for instance. You won't be able to copy and paste things or download things. So check with your lecturer about what the settings are, and your lecturer, after you take the exam, will be able to see the Proctorio report. Now, this report highlights unusual activity. The focus here is on any unusual activity, and in particular, highly unusual activity. So things like if another person enters or leaves the room, or if there's really unusual head or eye movements, or unusual keyboard movements, talking with another person and so on, that's going to be flagged in the report, and then your lecturer is going to review that. So if you have any questions or concerns about that, do contact your lecturer and or the course convener. If you have any concerns before taking the exam, do contact them. If you have concerns afterwards, do follow the guidance on the Wattle page about examinations, policies and procedures. And if you wish to lodge an appeal, use the assessment appeals guidance that's on the Wattle page too. So setting up involves thinking about what kind of equipment you have, and if you don't have a computer or a stable internet connection or a suitable space, for instance, there are several options available. So take a look in the ANU Proctorio FAQs, and the advice will be relevant there. Your equipment will need to have a computer with a webcam, a stable internet connection, and other equipment will depend on your exam rules. So ask your lecturer if you are able to have any other pieces of equipment around. So another device, for instance, a calculator, notepad and pen, that kind of thing. Usually you will be following the normal ANU exam rules. So think about if you weren't able to take it into in a room in a normal situation, you probably won't be able to do that kind of thing there. So check with the exam rules there. So that brings up your space as well, thinking about how is your space set up. So Proctorio will actually need to scan the room before you begin your exam. So it requires you to move your webcam around to show the room that you're in. So make sure that you are comfortable in that room and you are comfortable having that room recorded. Make sure that it's free from distractions as well. So if you're in a group house, do let your housemates know, and do make sure that there's, for instance, signs around the place to make sure that they don't forget that you're in the middle of an exam, because that will cause an alert in the Proctorio report. And make sure that you're free from interruptions as well. So it requires a bit of planning ahead. With yourself and preparing for the exam, do familiarise yourself with things like the exam rules, the permitted materials, and what you need to do if you have to leave the room early, if you have to leave the exam early, or if you, for instance, have an internet connection problem. So familiarise yourself with the advice that's on this Wattle page, and do contact your lecturer if you have any concerns. Have a practice run or two in these kinds of conditions as well to make sure that everything is working okay. So when studying for exams, that preparation before the exam is really, really key, and that also goes to being able to answer the questions that are asked. So find out all that you can about the exam beforehand. What kind of exam is it? Is it open book, closed book, that kind of thing? What kind of questions are you going to be asked? How long is it? What's it worth, etc. And have a think about breaking down your tasks into smaller chunks to help you prepare ahead of time. So do up a bit of a plan as you head towards your exam period. Do think about how you take your notes as well. One really useful strategy is to take detailed notes for each lecture and each week, but then compile them into more succinct notes so that you can eventually have a course summary sheet which on just 1 or 2 pages outlines the key information from that course, so that can jog your memory about the more detailed notes. Having a system like that is like an index or a reference so that you can remember more easily, quickly, the key information that you need. Think about having an exam study schedule too. So if you're a night owl and you're studying late into the nights but your exam is going to be early in the morning, think about using the remaining weeks of the semester to reschedule your routine to fit the exam schedule so that you're alert on a regular basis at the exam time. So do also think about blocking out your time in various ways to give yourself time to prepare for that exam. And make sure that your revision techniques actually match the kind of exam that you're doing. So if, for instance, you're taking a survey exam of compiling all of the information from the semester and presenting those ideas, review those notes, listen to those lectures, but most importantly, try and answer questions about that kind of topic as you go. Do attempt past exam papers as well. The ANU Library has a bunch of past exam papers or practice questions in your textbook can also be really useful. Study groups can help as well. If, for instance, you're asked to do a practice essay, do some practice essays ahead of time. And make sure during the exam that you're well prepared so that you don't fall into any of these kinds of situations, that there aren't any nasty surprises. So when you're preparing, have a think about answering every question and have a plan for during the exam. So if you know that it's going to be a certain amount of questions, allocate some time to each group of those questions. So have a bit of a plan in terms of your timing. You can also try the 3-pass method, which works for many people, where you first of all have a think about which answers are you certain about. Can you see all of those questions at once, for instance? And if you're able to track through the exam, see all of the questions, then you can figure out, okay, which ones are the easiest ones to answer. Do those first, get those out of the way. Then go back and try the slightly harder questions, and then again, on your 3rd pass, the ones that you're not very sure about. If you run out of time, do make sure that you attempt to answer all of the questions so that you show at least some of your ideas. And if you're asked things like essay questions and short answer questions, do make sure that you stick very clearly to the question when you're answering it. There might be many factors involved, but do make sure that the key answer to the question is very clearly presented in your answer. Finally, afterwards, do reflect on how you went. Were your notes useful and your revision strategy? Did your plan for your timing work out? And could your experience be improved for next time? For instance, are there things that you would change for next time with your setup and your equipment and so on? Do take time afterwards to celebrate too. Lastly, you can come and talk to us about exam preparation. So Academic Skills is able to do Zoom appointments or written feedback on your work. Now, in most cases, we do not see take-home exams, but if you want to talk about a plan of attack for your exams coming up, you can come and see us. Okay, best wishes, everyone.